As Chiki was taken back to the palace, his mind was in turmoil. The events of the day had shattered his world, leaving him feeling lost and alone. The king's guards led him through the grand halls of the palace until they reached the throne room, where the king sat upon his ornate throne, a smug smile playing on his lips. "So the little fisherman has lost his catch," the king sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. "How unfortunate." Chike's hands clenched into fists at his sides, his nails biting into his palms. He struggled to contain his rage, his mind reeling with disbelief at the king's callousness. His heart clenched at the mention of Amanda. "How could you do this?" he demanded, his voice thick with emotion. "She loved me and I loved her. How could you tear us apart like this?" The king chuckled, his eyes glinting with amusement. "Love is a fickle thing, my boy," he said dismissively. "But enough of that, I've decided to continue with the celebrations," the king announced, a cruel glint in his eyes. "And I've decided that the maiden with the best dance will be my new bride." Chiki's blood ran cold at the king's words, but before Chike could protest, the king waved his hand dismissively. "Take him away," he ordered his guards, "and make sure he doesn't cause any trouble." As Chike was led away from the throne room, his heart ached with the weight of his loss. Amanda was gone, and there was nothing he could do to bring her back. As Chike stood outside the palace, reeling from the king's callousness and the news of Amanda's death, he was confronted by Amanda's father, who had not yet been informed of his daughter's demise. The man's demeanor was drastically different from when Chike had saved his life, now filled with arrogance and disdain. "Ah, Chike," Amanda's father said with a sneer, "I hear you've been causing trouble and almost ruined my daughter's wedding. Is it because of the little money you had spent on my treatment that gave you the guts to come here as though you had paid me a dime for my daughter's bride price? Well, don't worry. My new in-law, the king, will surely repay you for your troubles," he said, not knowing that his daughter had jumped from a cliff and supposedly lost her life. Chiki's jaw clenched as he struggled to contain his anger. Before Chiki could respond, the king emerged from the palace, his expression indifferent as he offered a half-hearted condolence to Amanda's father. "Useless old man," the king muttered under his breath before turning his attention back to the festivities. Amanda's father, devastated by the loss of his daughter and the realization that his dreams of wealth and power were shattered, collapsed to the ground, clutching his chest in agony. Despite the efforts of those around him, it was clear that he was gone. As Chike's days became filled with sorrow and regret, he found solace in the forbidden river where Amanda had taken her fateful leap. In the quiet solitude of the riverbank, he would pour out his heart, his tears mingling with the gentle flow of the water. Unbeknownst to Chike, Amanda watched from the depths of the river, her heart aching with every tear he shed. She longed to reveal herself to him, to comfort him in his time of need. But fear held her back. "What have I done?" Chika's voice echoed through the stillness, his words heavy with self-blame. "I should have known. I should have protected her." Amanda's heart clenched at his words, knowing that she was the cause of his pain. She wanted to tell him the truth, to explain that her love for him had never faltered, even in death. But the fear of rejection held her tongue. Days turned into weeks, and still, Chike returned to the river, his grief consuming him more with each passing moment. And each time, Amanda watched from afar, her longing growing stronger with each heartbeat. But one evening, as Chike sat by the riverbank, his despair threatening to engulf him, he felt a strange sensation wash over him. It was as if the water itself was reaching out to him, soothing his troubled soul. And then, in the shimmering moonlight, he saw her, Amanda, her form radiant and otherworldly, rising from the depths of the river. Chike's heart stopped as he beheld her beauty, his mind unable to comprehend what he was seeing. "Amanda," he whispered, his voice trembling with disbelief. Amanda hesitated, fear flickering in her eyes. "Chike," she said softly, her voice barely more than a whisper. "It's me." Chike's breath caught in his throat as he took in the sight before him. He wanted to run to her, to hold her in his arms and never let her go. But fear held him back, fear of the unknown, fear of what she had become. But as he looked into her eyes, he saw only love and longing, and in that moment, all of his doubts melted away. Without a word, Chiki stepped forward, his hand outstretched towards Amanda. And as their fingers touched, a spark ignited between them. As Chike and Amanda embraced by the river, tears flowed freely from both of them, mingling with the gentle currents that surrounded them. Despite the fear and uncertainty that lingered in the air, their love burned bright, casting aside the shadows of doubt. For Chike, the sight of Amanda's transformed form was a shock at first, but as he gazed into her eyes, he saw only the woman he had loved so deeply. Her mermaid tale seemed insignificant compared to the overwhelming joy of having her back in his life. They spoke of their dreams, of the future they had once imagined together, a future filled with laughter, love, and the pitter-patter of little feet. And though their circumstances had changed, their bond remained unbreakable. As they parted ways that night, Chiki felt a newfound sense of purpose stirring within him. No longer burdened by the weight of grief and guilt, he vowed to visit Amanda by the river every night, to cherish the moments they shared, and to hold on to their love with all his might. As Chiki and Amanda lingered in each other's embrace, with the first light of dawn beginning to paint the sky, Chiki expressed his longing to remain with her always. "I wish I didn't have to always leave. I wish we could be together forever," he confessed, his voice filled with earnestness. Amanda's heart swelled with love and understanding as she heard his words. With a tender smile, she took his hand in hers and said, "Chike, my dear, your wish can come true, but you must trust me, and you must believe in the power of our love." Chiki looked into Amanda's eyes, seeing a glimmer of something magical reflected in their depths. Without hesitation, he nodded. "I trust you, Amanda. I believe in us." With a determined glint in her eyes, Amanda pulled Chiki close and dove into the water, dragging him into the depths with her. As they submerged, Chiki's heart raced with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. But to his astonishment, instead of drowning, he found himself enclosed in a shimmering bubble of light, allowing him to breathe freely underwater. Amanda smiled reassuringly at him, her hand clasped tightly in his as she led him deeper into the mysterious depths below. As they swam together through the underwater kingdom, Chike's senses were overwhelmed by the beauty and majesty that surrounded them. They passed through coral reefs teeming with colorful fish, swam alongside graceful sea turtles, and marveled at the towering spires of ancient ruins hidden beneath the waves. As they glided through the wondrous underwater world, Amanda revealed to Chike the truth of her transformation. She spoke of how she had been saved by the Queen of the Mermaids, who had taken pity on her and granted her a new life beneath the waves. Amanda explained that she had been adopted as the Queen's own child, welcomed into the royal family of the mermaids. With a gleam of excitement in her eyes, Amanda shared with Chiki the possibility of him becoming a merman too. She explained that she could speak to the Queen on his behalf, and if granted, he would possess the powers and privileges of royalty in the underwater kingdom. He would never need to work to survive again, and together they could live in eternal happiness beneath the waves. But as Amanda outlined the terms of this transformation, Chike's heart grew heavy with concern. He was an only son to his widowed mother, and the thought of leaving her behind weighed heavily on his mind. The idea of giving up his life on land of leaving behind everything and everyone he had ever known, filled him with uncertainty and doubt. As they swam side by side, Chike wrestled with his conflicting emotions. On one hand, the allure of a life of luxury and love with Amanda in the underwater kingdom was tempting beyond measure. But on the other hand, the thought of abandoning his family, of leaving his mother alone to fend for herself, filled him with guilt and sadness. As Chike and Amanda pondered their options, Amanda proposed a compromise that filled Chike with a sense of relief. She suggested that he could be transformed into a merman, but still retain the ability to come to land as he pleased, allowing him to maintain ties with his family and the world above. Overwhelmed with gratitude for this solution, Chiki eagerly agreed, and the process of his transformation began. Under the guidance of the Mermaid Queen, Chike underwent the mystical ritual that would make him a merman, with the ability to traverse both worlds. As the transformation took hold, Chike felt a surge of power coursing through his veins, his body adapting seamlessly to its new underwater existence. And as he emerged from the depths, he looked upon Amanda with newfound awe and love, knowing that they were now truly equals in every sense of the word. With their union now cemented in both land and sea, Chike and Amanda wasted no time in celebrating their love. They exchanged vows in a joyous underwater ceremony. Soon after, they were expecting a child of their own. But their happiness was short-lived, for tragedy struck one fateful day when a curious onlooker witnessed Chike emerging from the water and Amanda bidding him farewell. Hastening to the king, the man recounted what he had seen, stirring up rumors of Amanda's continued existence as a mermaid. Word spread like wildfire through the kingdom, reaching the ears of the king, who was filled with outrage and disbelief. How could his new bride still be alive, and yet dwell beneath the waves as a creature of the sea? Determined to uncover the truth, the king dispatched the king's most trusted spies, hidden among the branches of a towering tree, observed Chike's movements with hawk-like precision. Day after day, they watched as he made his clandestine visits to the Forbidden River, his actions raising suspicions and confirming the rumors that had been swirling through the kingdom. Their vigilance paid off when they witnessed the startling transformation that occurred as soon as Chike's body touched the water. With a sense of awe and disbelief, they saw his legs seamlessly morph into those of a fish, confirming beyond a shadow of a doubt that he was indeed connected to the mysterious underwater world. Filled with a mixture of fear and curiosity, the king's guards wasted no time in reporting their findings to their ruler. They recounted every detail of what they had witnessed, from Chike's frequent visits to the Forbidden River to the miraculous transformation that occurred when he entered the water. Upon hearing the startling revelations, the king's expression darkened with anger and rage. The king's rage burned like a fiery inferno as he processed the news of Chike's clandestine visits to the Forbidden River. His heart seethed with resentment and bitterness, knowing that despite his best efforts, Chike had won Amanda's heart and slipped through his grasp. With a heavy heart and a mind clouded by fury, the king issued a decree that sent shockwaves throughout the kingdom. He ordered for Chike to be immediately arrested and charged with the gravest of offenses, trespassing into the domain of the evil river where no one dared to venture. The punishment for such a crime was swift and merciless. Death by the hands of the kingdom's executioners. It was a fate reserved for only the most heinous of criminals, a fate that awaited Chike as the king sought to make an example of him and send a clear message to anyone who dared to defy his authority. As Chike stood before the king, his demeanor calm and unwavering, a tense silence settled over the throne room. The king, still seething with anger and resentment, sought to intimidate Chike with his power and authority. But to his surprise and frustration, Chike remained silent, his expression serene and his eyes filled with an inner strength that the king could not fathom. Infuriated by Chike's refusal to cower before him, the king's temper flared to new heights. With a swift motion, he pronounced the harshest of punishments upon Chike, death by the forbidden river, to be carried out at midnight the following day. It was a calculated move, designed to inflict maximum pain upon Amanda and Chike, to twist the knife of despair even further into their hearts. But little did the king know that his actions would soon come back to haunt him in ways he could never have imagined. As midnight approached and Chike was led to the riverbank, a miraculous sight unfolded before the eyes of all who had gathered to witness the execution. As the executioner's blade hovered menacingly over Chike's neck, the waters of the forbidden river began to churn and roil. And then, with a deafening roar, the mermaids emerged from the depths in a formidable display of power and fury. With a swift and decisive action, they overwhelmed the king's guards, their graceful forms moving with an otherworldly grace as they dispatched their foes with ease. And as the chaos unfolded, Chike stood at the center of it all, a beacon of hope amidst the darkness. In the end, it was the king who found himself facing the consequences of his actions. With a wave of their hands, the mermaids transformed him into a tiny fish, a mere shadow of his former self, as a lesson to all who would dare to defy the laws of love and justice. And so, amidst the tumult and upheaval, Amanda and Chike emerged victorious, their love stronger than ever before. In the months that followed, they welcomed their daughter, Chimara, into the world, a testament to the enduring power of love that transcended even the boundaries of land and sea. As they gazed upon their newborn daughter, a sense of peace and contentment settled over them, knowing that together they could overcome any obstacle that stood in their way. And as they held her close, their hearts filled with hope for the future, knowing that their journey was far from over. To be continued.